Welcome to Detachment 538's first podcast of the fall 2022 semester. I'm Cadet Orlando, the current recruiting squadron commander.
And I'm Cadet Wood, the current public affairs officer. This week we had a special guest visitor, Chief Master Sergeant Juan C. Alvarez. Chief Alvarez is the superintendent of the Northeast region of the Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps. He is the senior enlisted advisor to the Northeast Region Commander on mission-related issues and the management and utilization of 230 cadre members. Additionally, he is the key consultant to the Region Commander and 37 detachment commanders on the proper execution of a $15 million budget and the development of 3,500 cadets.
Detachment 538 had the opportunity to have a Q&A session with Chief Alvarez. Here are some of the questions our cadets asked him.
I'm Cadet Faye. I'm an AS-200. My question for you, sir, is what's the hardest part of your job? What's the most difficult aspect you find?
So the question is, what is the most difficult aspect of my job? I'll tell you probably the most difficult aspect is visiting the detachments at least once a year. So across the region, we have 37 detachments. And our goal is to visit each detachment once a year. So I was here almost a year ago. So now I'm doing my rounds again. It's not personally, it's not hard for me. I think it's harder on my family because, visiting 30 detachments kind of translates to being gone maybe like 3 months, maybe 4 months out of the year. Because I've been on the road for the last 5-6 days. I have 3 more days, then I go back. Now, in this case, it's a little bit different because I go back and I'm on leave for like 2 weeks. I come back and then as soon as I get back, I gave myself 1 more day in the office to kind of catch up, and then I'm on the road again. So my wife, she was making fun of me. She was like, "Hey, thanks for being my weekend husband." So I told her, I was like, "Okay, I'll have a good comeback, And I told her, "Thanks for being my Uber driver," because she's the one that drops me off at the airport and picks me up when I get back, okay? But again, to me, I love traveling. I was telling them earlier that that's one of the reasons why I joined the Air Force is to travel. And trust me, in this job, I do a lot of traveling. So just visiting the detachments, but then there's other TDYs, temporary duty locations that I go to. And so overall, in a year, I'm gone for maybe 5 months. Not, nonstop, but I go in for a week or two. I go visit, come back for the weekend, couple of days, and then I'm gone again. So, but honestly, I like my job. I really do. Okay, next question.
I am Cadet Bush. I'm an AS-200, and my question for you, sir, is what traits or qualities should we seek to develop while we're at college?
Qualities to develop or learn while you're in college. I'll be honest, have an open mind. Have an open mind to learn, an open mind to embrace new things. Because when you join the Air Force, you're still going to have those qualities. You're still going to rely on those qualities because you're going to go to places that you've never been to and just embrace it. Be open-minded where you're going to meet other people that you've never met before, different backgrounds. How many of you are from this region? So I would say, half of you all. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to go and you may be stationed in Japan. Total different culture, total different kind of people, religion, and just go out there and embrace it. Be open-minded. I think you may be very secure in your own beliefs, in your own religious beliefs, but that doesn't stop you from learning from that culture. Because I think they may have good things like, hey, you know what? I actually like that. And I'm gonna implement it, okay? And I'll tell you, when I went to Pakistan, when I was at the U.S. Embassy in Pakistan, favorite assignment. Why? Because a different culture. I like the people. Sometimes it was challenging working, with them because, they prayed throughout the day. And for us, we're very business oriented, very task oriented. And I had to learn that for them, that is important. And sometimes I will go down and talk to them and say, hey, we need to work on this. And what are they doing? They're praying. And initially I was like, oh, here we go. But I embraced it. And not only that, but I started asking questions. Hey, so why do you guys pray? And to a certain degree, I kind of knew, but I wanted to hear from them. And they told me, this because of this and that. And I'll tell you that I learned a lot from them. And I'm pretty sure they'll learn from me. So be open-minded, embrace new things. Because, again, the Air Force is going to take you out of your region. And we're going to send you to places that you're going to learn so many things from people, the culture, the location. Just be open-minded. Okay, next question. Yes, sir.
Hey, so I'm Cadet Chang. I'm an AS200. And my question for you, sir, is I know that you've had a history of leading airmen, but how is it different leading AFROTC cadets?
The difference between leading actual active duty airmen and leading cadets. I'll be honest, I don't think there's a difference. I'll tell you that leadership is leadership, no matter the situation. Okay? Now, of course, the difference may be that this is a training environment versus on active duty, it is no longer a training environment. Now, this is for real. So I needed to understand that hopefully we got them prepared where they understand that if they don't do their job, if they're taking shortcuts, it could impact other people's life. Now, in the training session, if we see you not doing the things that we expect you to do, our job is to give you that feedback because we want you to be ready so whenever you become active duty, you are ready to lead people. But the leadership principles that you learn here are pretty much going to be the same there because, again, leadership is leadership. That's it, okay? And that's what I tell our NCOs. It's like the Air Force has done a great job in bringing enlisted people as leaders because leadership is leadership. Now, yes, sometimes you have to rely, as you as future officers, on that rank, on that position. But at the end of the day, if you're relying on your rank and your position to lead, then you may be approaching leadership in the wrong way. Does that make sense? Is you should influence people not because of your rank or your position, but because you are a leader. Yeah, hopefully I answer your question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Cadet Orlando, AS 300. Sir, my question is, what is something we as future officers becoming second lieutenants can do to help elevate enlisted members?
How can you elevate enlisted members? I would say get to know your people. Some of the great leaders that I've had, they had a genuine interest on who we are. And I'll tell you, not just because they're enlisted people, even as an officer and you have as you promote and if you're a major and then you have a brand new second lieutenant, get to know them. Getting to know your airmen is critical. I know, I'll be honest, it's time consuming. Don't get me wrong, it is. Okay, because you still have your job, but our airmen want to be known. They want to know that their value and what they bring to the mission makes a difference. So get to know them because one way or another, sometimes what happens at home bleeds into their professional life. And the only way you're going to know about that is if you really know them. And I've seen it where I've taken the time to get to know some of our members, and then one day they show up at work, and I know they're not being themselves. And I'm like, let me go ask them. And I was, hey, Sergeant, are you okay? Or sometimes even a lieutenant, like, hey, Lieutenant, are you okay? Like, you're not being yourself. What is going on? And of course, I'll shut the door, so make sure, he's being transparent. And sometimes he's like, Chief, it's because this, and that. And the only way I got to that, I guess, the only reason why I had that opportunity is because I got to know him. And that's important. Now, yes, I tell you, you can get to know your airmen in a professional way. It's okay to know that they have a family. It's okay to know that they have kids. It's okay to know what motivates them, because that's important information. So when you know that things are not going great, you may ask them, hey, how's your family? And then they may say, you know what, my child is sick, is really sick. And I've actually had this, an airman, I knew that he was not being himself. So I approached him and I found out, that his mom was in a critical stage. And by me knowing that, I was able to get him a humanitarian assignment a lot closer to his family. And he didn't know about that. And he was miles away. And I'll be honest, I'll tell you that's probably one of my proudest moments when the Air Force approved the humanitarian assignment. We got him close to home. He was able to be closer to his family. Eventually, the mom passed away. But he was there. And I'll tell you that I told him that's why it's important to know your airmen, because of situations like this. Okay, next question. Yes, sir. Oh, I got to bring the phone.
Sir, Cadet Rosica, AS400. Have you noticed a difference between working for USAFA versus ROTC versus OTS graduates? And if so, what were the differences that you noticed?
The difference between USAFA, ROTC, and OTS cadets. So for those of you that are listening online, so there's 3 ways to commission in the Air Force. Is Air Force Academy, ROTC, and Officer Training School. I'll be honest, probably many years ago, there was probably the perception that you could only make general if you were a USAFA graduate. And there was probably the perception that USAFA officers were better than all the other. And I think we've made that change. And I'll tell you that right now, our Chief of Staff of the Air Force, he's not a USAFA graduate. He's a ROTC graduate. And not only that, but now that I'm in this position, sometimes when we have general visiting our locations, I look and say, what's their commissioning source? And I see ROTC. So that tells me, that nowadays, I think the Air Force has said, hey, we're all equally important, and I'm glad. And not only that, but I think we're also making the transition, that, same thing, the perception was only pilots would be general officers. No, now we have people 2, 3 stars or 4 stars that are not just pilots. And that, I like that. So I think the playing field is level. The perception is no longer there. And if you ever encounter a situation where, you're a captain and the other person is a captain and he's Air Force Academy and he wants to, put more, no, you need to stop. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, we're both captains and our job is to execute the mission. Let's concentrate on that, not as to who's more important than the other. At the end of the day, your job is to come in, execute the mission, and take care of the people. Did I answer your question? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Cadet Orlando, AS300. You talked about visiting a few other detachments. What's something that stands out to you about Detachment 538?
I would say the first thing was the location. I think I like it. I like the area. I got here Saturday, and I was like, I need to go hiking. And excuse me, I found different locations, and I was like, man, this is cool. So I would say that. Number 2, I think the staff, the cadre that we have, I think they're amazing. They are. Talking about the influence that a teacher can have, I know that they're looking out for you all. Their job is to make sure that you are better off and better prepared for active duty for you to become that lieutenant than they were when they commissioned. And I think I think they're all ROTC. Well, one is for sure OTS, and I think the other one is, I think Captain Deeds is from this, right? I think he graduated from...
One ROTC and 2 OTS.
One ROTC and 2 OTS. Okay, and trust me, I think that they want the best for you, the best training, because they want you to be better off than when they commission. And I know with that mentality, I know that they're pretty awesome. And then last but not least, I will say, that you all, the cadets, that's the reason why I have a job. That's the reason why I am here. That's the reason why the cadre is stationed here at RIT, because of the mission, because of you all. So I honestly thank you for your interest. Thank you for trying to pursue this. And I just wish you the best. So I will say that, those 3. Anyone else? How much more time we have?
18 minutes.
18 minutes.
Cadet Morsh, AS 350. Chief Alvarez, I was wondering, what qualities do you look for in a junior officer? I know we kind of touched on it, but I know a lot of people are showing up now. So.
I'll tell you this, and I learned this as a master sergeant, senior master sergeant. When I was part of USAFE, when I was stationed at Germany, I was working for a 4-star, the USAFE commander. I was part of the commander action group, and I don't know, they wanted an officer and an enlisted speechwriter for the 4-star. So the commander is like, hey, we want to send you. You have 2 masters. We're going to send you to Georgetown University in D.C. to go learn speech writing. I was like, cool, I'll do it. And eventually I graduated and I come back, and then the 4-star he got invited to go to be the keynote speaker at weapons school in Nellis. And I knew about weapons school, but I didn't know a lot. So, of course, like, hey, Chief, or Sergeant Alvarez, you're going to be writing the speech. I was like, oh, man, like, for real, like me? So it was all coming together. So, of course, I did my best. But one of the things that I learned there is their motto, their mantra. And believe it or not, I use it now, of course. Those that go to weapons school, they get to wear what we call the patch. I don't know if you're familiar. I don't know if you're all familiar with weapons school. Eventually, if you go to weapons school, you are like the best of the best within your functional community. If you want to am I doing great? If you get selected for weapons school, that's a good sign, okay? In fact, if you look at a lot of general officers, you're going to see that they have the weapons school patch, okay? So they call it that patch. But one of the things that their mantra, and I like this so much, is credible, approachable, reliable. And believe it or not, I kind of I was like, I like this. I want, as a future leader, you want to be credible with what you bring to the mission. If you're a cyber ops, you want to be the best at it. If you're a pilot, you want to be the best at it. If you're a nurse, whatever you do in the Air Force, have the credibility that, hey, you know what? When he speaks, we know it's correct. We know that he knows his stuff. That's awesome, okay? Humble. Going back to an earlier question, as a leader, don't use your position, don't use your rank for self-interest. Use your position to make a difference in the unit, in the Air Force, and people's life. You're going to have the opportunity to take care of your people. Do it. And then last but not least, there was credible and approachable. And as a leader, you want people to come to you. You want to be approachable. You may be the best of the best, but if you're not approachable, then what? What's good is that? You want people to come to you because they want to learn from you. So at that, I was like, I'm taking that. Now, of course, I can't wear the patch, okay? But I can live by that motto, and I think it was pretty awesome. Hopefully answer your question. So again, reemphasize, humble, approachable, credible.
Whose question was it?
It was his. Okay, his. Now, It may be a little bit, I don't know if it's approachable, humble, credible, but those are the three things, okay? But I think they're pretty awesome. And if you go to active duty with that in mind, I think you're going to be a great leader. You're going to be a great officer. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, then I think, okay, yes, I will share something.
Cadet Orlando, AS300. What's the biggest culture shock when shifting from residential living to base living that you've seen officers go through?
Residential to on base?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are these your questions, or are there like people typing questions online?
So these are my questions.
This is your question. Well, of course, I cannot tell you from an officer's perspective, but I'll tell you from my perspective, okay? Personally, I like being on base. I really do. Everywhere I go, I've always tried to stay on base. Why? Because I have a family of 3, and then as I've been moving around, they were little, and then they're a lot older. It's just the security being on base, the security that we know our base. Not anyone can just come in. If you don't have an ID, you can't come in, a military ID or a dependent ID. So it's like a private community, and I like that. I really do. And not only that, but some bases, the house is provided. You don't pay utilities. I know that's changing. Some bases, like you pay a percentage or something like that. But I love it. So my kids, Dad, can I shower every day? Yes, you can, because I'm not paying for the water. If you want to fill up the tub, go for it. So that is pretty awesome. And in our Air Force bases, I'll tell you that for the most part, and I say most, I'm talking about 98% of the time, they're awesome bases. They really do. And so we will leave the house, and we wouldn't lock the house. We knew that it was secure, and I've never had, my house broken in. So it was awesome. It was, okay? So I like it. Where I'm at Wright-Patterson, I couldn't stay on base because it's only for mission critical, mission essential, mission critical personnel. So I couldn't stay on base. So I was like, oh man, I got to go find a house off base. So my next thing is I told my wife, I want a house that is close to the base. And we were lucky to find a house that is literally like 7 minutes from the base. It's in a very good neighborhood. I like it. The house is big enough. In fact, my wife told me, can you buy the house? I like it. So I was like, yeah, maybe not, because we're not going to be there very long, okay? So there's the pros and cons. Personally, I believe there's a lot more advantage to staying on base. Now, some lieutenants may be married to like military to military. So because of that, one gets BAH with dependents, the other one gets BAH without dependents. So they make a lot of money because they go buy a house and, combine them. And I'm just making this, they may make $3,000 in BAH, but their house is only $1,800. So they make a lot of money. Or because of that, they may get a bigger house. So it's just the pros and cons. At the end of the day is what fits your situation. If you're single, you may get a house with other lieutenants. And, it's like, hey, this is our house. Each one of us is going to get a room, and that's it. So, again, their BAH is $1,500, but they're only paying $400 for the room, and that's fine. It's just whatever works for you. Just look into it, and you want to leave on base? Fine. You want to be off base? It doesn't really matter. It's whatever you want to experience. Okay. Any other questions? If not, let me share the last few things that I want to share with you all. Is one of the things that I'm very passionate about is the comprehensive airman fitness. Raise your hand if you heard this term. There's 4 pillars under the comprehensive airman fitness. What are they?
Physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental. Is that
Okay, emotional is not about you. You're pretty close.
physical, spiritual, mental, and
Social.
social?
Okay, one of the things, And this is for you all, and I try to share this with the cadre as well, is the importance of taking care of yourself. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this more in PT session as an example. Okay, I know we had 2 groups. Okay, and if you're in a leadership position, if you're a POC, of course, you have extra responsibilities. And to you, that 3-mile run may not be enough to take care of yourself physically. But because you're in that leadership position, we kind of expect for you that if someone falls out, the wingman concept, go help. So you may not get a good workout. But you still have to take care of yourself. That means that you may have to do it later, maybe the following day or maybe tonight, you're going to go and get your workout. Well, as a leader, whenever you come on active duty, the Air Force is going to expect for you to take care of the mission and take care of your people. But I need you to understand that in the middle of all that, you're taking care of your people, but you find the time to take care of yourself. Because the Air Force is going to put you through situations, stressful situations. They may send you to places that you don't want to go to. But the more resilient you are, the better you are. And I truly mean it. Because, I think there's a lot of engineers here, right? Mechanical, electrical engineers. I like to see, you have a bridge. And there's 4 columns supporting the bridge. If one of them is failing, if one of them is cracking, now you're messing with the integrity of the bridge. Can you still use it? Maybe. But you're messing with the integrity. You're messing with the foundation of that bridge. So think your life as that. If you're only strong in 1 or 2, something is going on. And it's very hard for you to lead others when your own life is falling apart. And I say this, find that good balance, because the Air Force still expects you to lead and execute the mission. But somewhere in there, you need to find time to take care of yourself. Because it's very hard. Again, it's like the blind leading the blind. It's very, very difficult when your own life is falling apart. So please remember this. Take care of yourself as well. Because we need resilient leaders. We really do. And then the last thing I'll say is, for me, when I became a senior NCO, I started realizing, hey, you know what? What is my job as a senior NCO? And I'll tell you that for the last 7 or 8 years, I've been going off by, I'm going to go and execute the mission. I'm going to go take care of my people. I'm going to go and have fun. No matter where you send me, Air Force, even if places I don't want to go to, I'm still going to go and I'm going to have fun. And last but not least, I'm going to have a great attitude. Because there's going to be things that you cannot change. You cannot change what the Air Force is going to send you, but you can show up with a great attitude. And when you're there, have fun. Enjoy the location. Enjoy the area. Find something that you can stay, active, that you can have fun. If you like playing sports, get with the units like, hey, I'm going to put together a baseball team. Who wants to be in it? And trust me, there's going to be enough interest for you to have your own baseball team or flag football team. I mean, you name it, whatever it is. Be active. Be proactive. Because it's when you're having fun that you ask me, what is I think you asked me, what was the worst part or what is it that I don't like? I honestly, it was hard for me to come with something because I enjoy this job. I really do. I love it. Okay, and then I'll tell you the last thing before I hand it over is one of the core values that we have is service before self. There's going to be times when literally we have to live up to that core value. The Air Force is going to send you to places you don't want to go to. You're going to miss birthdays. If you're married, you're going to miss anniversaries and other special events. It is what it is. We all raise our right hand and say we want to do this voluntarily. And that's going to be, we're going to have to make sacrifices. Now, in all honesty, in 22 years, have I made sacrifices? Yes. But I have not sacrificed, let me put it, I need like my hands. My career has been pretty awesome with a little bit of sacrifices. Now, had it been a lot more sacrifices than the other, I don't think I will be here after 22 years. Now, your situation might change. 40 years, maybe you come in and you say, I'm going to go and do 20 years, 30 years, but, life happens. If you're not having fun anymore and you're having a bad attitude and the personal sacrifice is outweighing everything else, maybe it's time for you to consider separating or getting out. Why? Because it's very hard for you to lead someone when you're not buying it, you're not invested in it. And people can see that. They really can. And maybe, like I said, the best thing for you, the best thing for your family, and the best thing for the Air Force is maybe to say, hey, you know what? The 4 or 5 or 6 years that I've been in the Air Force is been awesome. Maybe it's time for me to hang the uniform and let someone else serve who is going to be truly invested in being leaders. Does that make sense? But I'll tell you that at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be a great career. Okay.
Thanks, We would like to thank Chief Alvarez for his time sharing his experiences and advice with our detachment. If you would like to suggest a topic or pose a question for the next podcast, reach out to me, Cadet Wood, via email at Romeo Juliet Whiskey 1032 at Romeo India Tango Echo Delta Uniform.